Thank you everyone for joining. Yeah, and this is our third research and uh, webinar on research. And it's on the topic of ethics, research ethics. And to begin with, start a little bit about Yetenaweg. Yetenaweg is a digital platform, and it's registered in Pennsylvania, USA as a nonprofit and run entirely by volunteer members. We have over 70 active volunteer members across five different countries and counting. And with regards to our projects and engagements, we are currently working on health promotions. So we have different discussions and also article writing, and we also are engaging with the community. We're having blood drives, like fundraising campaigns. We also have another wing dealing with mentorship and skill sharing, and also on medical education with regards to CME and research and QA projects. So Yetenaweg is more than a digital platform. Like I said earlier, we have blood donation drives and also like donation activities done throughout our organization. These are some of the activities we're currently doing under Yetenaweg. To talk about the Yetena Roha Research Fellowship. So this is currently being done at two medical schools, St. Paul's Hospital Mini Medical College and the Columbus Specialized Hospital. And the Yetena Roha Research Fellowship, we first started on March 14th, 2023. And we started with three departments at Addis Ababa University. Those departments are like oncology, radiology, and internal medicine. And their research grants were given for winners, and also mentorship was given for 10 of those winners. And for the second cohort at the St. Paul's Hospital Mini Medical College, it was primarily focused at medical students or the interns, and research grant was provided for winners, and the winners were announced just the past April 12th. These are the winners from the Addis Ababa University cohort, and these are the winners from the St. Paul's Hospital Mini Medical College cohort. So when we come to the CME, it's freely accessible, and we partner with different stakeholders like Society of Cardiac Professionals, Ethiopian Society of Internal Medicine, Ethiopian Medical Association, so that we can be providing this continuous medical education. And in 2024, there are more than 30 webinars uh, scheduled on the following items like emergency surgical and medical cases, on ENT and pediatrics, and OB/GYN and oncology cases, and also the research is one part of it. So you can go to our YouTube channel. I'll be posting the link in the chat, and previous CMEs can be accessed there. And also, if you want, you can join our Telegram channel for healthcare professional. I'll also be attaching a link to that, and follow our social media posts so that you can get updates about our upcoming CEUs. So for the best experience in this webinar, we advise you to attend the whole session virtually. Like minutes are going to be checked by the Zoom attendee reports, and fill the Google form for personal details and attendance. And there will be post-CME quiz. We'll be giving you around 10 minutes to attempt those quiz, and you should at least get around 50% or more to get your certificate. So certification, the results you'll get your results right away, but certification will take 1 to 2 weeks to be delivered on your email. So we ask you to wait patiently until we provide this. And Yeah, thank you. So, to start with today's session, it's going to be on research ethics, and our guest speaker is Sebsib Neway. And to say a little bit about Sebsib Neway, Sebsib Neway is a seasoned microbiologist and medical laboratory technologist. Who serves as an associate researcher. He obtained his bachelor's degree from Harama University and his master's degree in microbiology from Addis Ababa University, with a focus on research topics such as leishmaniasis and TB. Sebsib has authored numerous publications. Currently, he holds the position of associate researcher and coordinates the mycobacterium unit at Armauer Hansen Research Institute. Sebsib, if you are ready to start, I think you can share your screen and we can start.
Okay, thank you so much for being here to attend my research ethics. So I introduce myself by, I guess this. So my name is Sebsib Neway. I'm happy being here for present my topic for research ethics. So as you know, these topics are very vast. So we can't cover all this part within this 30 or the 40 minutes. So I only give you highlight or to reminding for to read more deeply because these are two vast topic or titles. So my outline is here. I said before, so I give you only for highlight. So these are outlines. So before going to the main topics, as you know, research, I'm sure most of you know about the meaning or the topic, what is, taking more time on the definition of research and so on. So we only focus on when conducting research, focusing in clinical research. Most of you know medical research is focused on clinical parts. Uh, Most of I like trials and so on. So during this time, we should care for ethical. So research involving data collected by interviewer, questionnaires, focus group, and observations. Action research project, use of human tissue is very sensitive part, and accessing medical records and data from medical centers or health centers. So also, these medical records have very important information for public, and very important for privacy and to care of ethics. So we focus on when we conduct research, we should have to focus on these parts. As you know, research is very important. So even though it's very important, there will be minimize the risk. There's also risk. So we should have to be balance the potential benefit between the risk and benefits. So identify the risks involved with assessing potential like physical risk. When we say physical risk, as you know, in medical facilities, there are direct contact with medical equipment or medical drugs and so on. So there is risk for physically, like injecting, example like injecting in syringe or contacting infection, so on. So there are also social risk, economic risk, legal harm, as well as inconvenience and discomfort. So we focus on this. And also we should have to evaluate the risk, the type of risk, severity, and likelihood of harm are considered based on the available data. Also, we should have to minimize risk. So without risk, there is no research. So we should have to minimizing the risk as much as possible to very minor or to minor. And also managing the risk involving implementing procedure to address and monitor risk throughout the research process. Example, like when we conducting trial researches, we should have to care of attendants or patients of medical care regularly. Example, like in weekly or in monthly checking for the liver functionality and also liver also any other part of the attendant. So we should have to monitor the risks throughout our process. So when it comes to the ethics, only I give you a highlight like what's ethics. I'm sure most of have an excellent information about ethics. So the word ethics came from, sorry, how can I work from ethics from Greek words? Ethos means a character or a behavior. So it's a systematic study of value, concept for good, bad, right, wrong, and general principles that justify applying this concept. Ethics are rules, guidelines, norms that we follow. Ethics is the disciplined study or morality. The morality asks the question, what should one's behave also? So when we follow ethics, we should have to be respect for persons for their autonomy. So we conduct or we find our result from the patient or the attendant. So the attendant you should have to know whether he have autonomy and protect for those with diminished autonomy, beneficiency. Always should have to do good, but do not do no harm. When you say that, do good for beneficiaries or for the attendant, but don't do no harm. Also, ethics or justice and equity should have to also good practice, integrity, honesty, safety. You should have to responsibility to participant in their community and self and colleague, institution, wider research community. What's important for ethics? Why ethics is important? Should have to know also this. As you remember, before 1947, there are no ethics. So anyone can do his research without ethics. Any person without learning or without any professionalism, he can try his idea with pupils as counting as animals. So after 1947, there will become ethics by people. So ethics are very important because of one, it's protect for participants. Because we focus on our research on participants, so it should protect our participants, and it get like trust and credibility because of adherence to ethical principle creates trust in scientific community and for public. Ethics are very important for quality research. So without ethics, no quality, because there are organizations or there are bodies to control what research is. Who is the person who perform quality of research, and so it's important for ethical behavior preserve the integrity of research, leads accurate and unbiased results. So also respect for human dignity. So it is very important for because of ethics, ethical principle prioritize the inherent value of the individual and promote fair and compassionate of treatment. Also is a compliance of law because ethics have a law, rule, and guidelines. So we should have to be compliant with the law. And also we should have to professionalism standards. Without professionalism, can't conduct any research, because example, like if a person have professional for laboratory or nurse and so on, so he should be take on his parts. Like a person who is a nurse is very important to conducting research around his professionalism, like around on nurse part. If it's engineer, also his profession or his research is around on engineering part. So it's very important in the ethics. Also, it's important for general public interests, not for individual interests. So also, ethical decision is prioritized for the common good. So ethics means it's moral, honesty, it's principle, it's right, it's fairness, it's also choice, it's honor, it's value, and so on. We should protect the right of people who participate in the research. Unethical research can harm people and the community. The unethical research can lead to distrust of science and research, and ultimately hinder scientific progress and promote ethical behavior among researchers. It helps maintain trust in the research process, ensure the validity and reliability of findings. There are requirements, ethical requirements. When we say ethical requirements, there are few points I can put here. So first, we should have to obtain informed consent from the participants. So before starting your activity for research, you should have to be obtain voluntarily from the patients, or should have to informed consent from the participants. The participant should be part of the research and protect their confidentiality and privacy. So the one is very important is confidentiality and privacy of the participant and minimizing risk. As we discussed before, you should have to be minimize the risk. So we can't avoidable risk, but we can minimizing risk by doing or by choosing different methods and obtaining approval from the institution review board. The final output should be reported accurately without any manipulation, any falsification, and so on. There are the problems encountered in the biomedical research by the National Commission includes like inadequate protection of human subject participant in the research study, ethical concern regarding the use of vulnerable population, vulnerable population like people from prison, children, people from maybe HIV peoples. So these are vulnerable population should have to concern regarding of these peoples, and inappropriate risk benefit assessment in the research protocol, failure to maintain confidentiality and privacy, lack of informed consent, and fraud. This should be encountered by National Commission. So how do research ethics apply to me? So you can ask yourself this question. So ethics apply to all aspects of research. Before going to conduct or start your research or activity, how we interact with participants. So we should have to interact friendly with the participants. We should have to interact with the participant with friendly or smoothly, because we gather the important information from the participants. So it's very important. After that, how we collect and store data also. So after interacting with our people, can get data. So this data also very important. So how can I collect the data and how can I store data? And finally, how we report findings. There are methods, so we should have to know the methods, how report the finding, how put the finding, and choosing the analysis methods, and so on. So there are regulatory requirements. So I told before 1947. Before that, there is no regular requirement, or I think there is no ethics. So after that, by gradually, there are currently is very important. There is very good regulatory importance came out to research parties. So these are institutional reward. most of is depend on the research. Example, where if you have our researchers or minimum research like some data collection in our center, in our site, no need of like national or international review board. So it's important to be approved by the institutional review board. Also, we should have to get from participant informed consent. We should have given information our research for the participant. So we should have to get informed consent. So all persons conducting research involving human subjects should complete human subject protection trainings. Also, currently, without training or without ethics training, no one can do his research as general. So before starting to perform research, you should have an ethical or ethics or ethical training. So these are very mandatory. The role of the institutional review board is to determine whether the right welfare of the subjects are adequately protected, whether the study adheres to sound ethical and scientific principles. These are known. So if our research is around like in national example, like prevalence of HIV in Ethiopia, if we say like this type of research, we should have to institutional or national review board. If our research like abroad from the national or HIV prevalence in East Africa or in Africa, so we should have to get also international review board like. So this depends upon what we conduct, what we have our data. What requires ethics approval? So before going to start our activities, so should have to be involving with contact with human participants, like I told you before, but clinical research like trial research involving data collected by interview and questionnaires, focus groups, observations, action research projects, use of human tissue. This all is important to get ethical approval because of these are directly contact with participants, directly contact with very important data or information with participants. So it's important getting approval before our activities. But some like meta-analysis or from review or reviewing from the different data may not be important for getting approval unless every research with contact with human in animals, so we should have to be approval unless there will not be is illegal, so can as we can count as illegal from ethics rules. So there are review boards. So there are some ethical committees in center, in health center, or in facilities. So this ethics committee will assess whether the research is justified. Is the research is likely to add to existing knowledge base? It is sufficient standard. He assess like, is it sufficient standard? Like including whether the researcher are qualified to carry out the role and the roles proposed. So before that, the researcher have is enough knowledge or sufficient knowledge on the area. So also the researcher have an ethics and research trainings. So this committee also identifies this such points. The risk is also posed to participants outweighed by the potential benefits of the research. So as we discussed before, research is very important part, but there is a risk. So they should have also potentially compare the risk and the research. So also the research appear to compile with all legal and other guidance. There are legals and rules for research, so they should have to also care of this guidance and the rules. Data management handling appears to compile with the relevant legislation. Financial arrangement also appears sound. This all points will be assessed by ethics committee, which is by committee, which is by reviewing boards. There are principles, so it's around 4 principles. Research is merit and integrity. So research is valuable and it's conducted with integrity and also justice. Equity and fairness provide fair distribution of benefit and burden of research. Beneficence minimize the risk to participant, respect, and so on. So when it comes to the beneficence and then maleficence, I discussed before. So balancing the potential benefit of the research with the risk of the harm. So I said before, risk is not avoidable, but we should have to be minimized to minor or very minor. So beneficence is balancing this risk and benefits. So example like physical harm, discrimination or infringement of privacy, psychological harm, social harm, or all these are should be balancing. So benefit may be for society rather than the individual participants. When we look research, most of the time, look, is it important for public rather than the individual? So we should also look for benefits for society. And also the goal is to minimize the risk of harm individual and groups. As justice are choosing the research participant and group fairly, because participant group fairly በሆነ መንገድ ማለት ነው። ምሳሌ ካለው ከሪሶርስ ወይም ከሌላም ይሁን ብቻ justice also making or participant be fair or equal. So making sure that everyone who could benefit from the research has the opportunity to participate. No fair for one and the other. So working to bring beneficial result of the research to people and group who have contributed to the research. We should have to respect participants or our patient or our participants. So by obtaining informed consent, by giving information what we are going to do. So make sure that people know that the research is voluntary and give people the time to ask questions so that they can decide whether they want to participate or not. So do not unfair influence people to participate because of different methods like or by giving financial payment or so on. So even after someone decides to participate, make sure that he or she understands that he can decline to answer a question or stop anytime. So we should have to know this also. Protect vulnerable peoples and groups because of people like prisoners and children should be cared because of no one who stand for them. So it should be protect for them and protect privacy and confidentiality of the participant or the patient that we output the results or the data from the patients. Come to general research risk ethics. Its key principles involve respecting participants' rights, minimizing risk, obtaining informed consent, maintaining confidentiality. So research ethics prioritize transparency, accountability, and integrity. Should also oversight by institutional review boards ensure that compliance Also, adherence to research ethics promotes trust, credibility, and integrity within the scientific community, enhance public confidence in research finding, and protect the welfare of participants. So unethical sensitive research can leave the research setting in pandemonium because of if it's unethical research, there is noisy or an uncomfortable environment for the researcher, the institution, and that cause he or she seeks promote. So ethical is very important because of for all those. Failure to treat subject with respect can result data is misleading. If our participant is enforcing with in somewhat or some in other means, so we can get the right the right information from the participants. So we misleading or he can respond something like without 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 afraiding or any means of. So we mislead our information. There is no inconclusiveness, and also we make biased. So we should have to take of our subject or participants with care or respect. So in the rigorous and demanding world of research, scientists may not fully consider the need and viewpoint of the people who participate in the research in their studies. So as a result, subjects may be feel forced to respond with deception or concealment because of without understanding of our participants, we may get like false result or false information from our patients or our participants. There are only two types of ethical decision making. So we grouped out deductive and inductive. So when we say deductive, principle-based reasoning, and inductive or case-based reasoning. So when we say deductive is principle-based reasoning, so conclusion was drawn by applying general principles or rules to particular cases, like start from general to reasoning based on reasoning. So start from general premises, arrives to a specific conclusion. So like example, all humans are mortal. So Socrates is human beings, therefore Socrates is mortal. So from general information to specific information. So we call it like deductive reasoning, case-based. And inductive is from specific to general. When it comes to like example, all swans are white. So based on the observations of white swans are encountered. So move from specific observation to general conclusions. There are problems encountered in biomedical research by National Commission included. ብዙ አይነት ያው ሚስ አንኤቲካል ሪሰርቾች ነበሩ ከዚህ በፊት። So I only put here some of example like so Beecher 9666 article was published in New England Journal of Medicine. So these are unnecessary risks without for participant knowledge and consent. So this will be retracted from the journals. And also Tuskegee is untreated civils in black males. So this research are very unethical researches takes place in America, I think that. So many of the participants suffered serious health consequences as a result of untreated civils, including blindness, neurological damage, and death. The study was finally uncovered and shut down in 1970 after whistleblower Peter Boxen brought into the attention of the media. So such like people's work or their work without ethics or unethical research can bring like such cases like even until death. So these two research are an example, and also another like clone research. The researcher from South Korea and one who took from the Seoul National University claimed to have generalized human embryonic stem cell by means of cloning technology using 185 women sex. At this time, he get pride of the research, so he get recognition because of a very important finding. But after the end, there are, as you see the image here, several of photos of properly different cells were in fact photo of same cells instead of using 185x. So these are manipulation of image. So at the end, he will be fine is fraud or falsification of the data or manipulation of the data. So his research is retracted in the journal. So such people are before knowing or before ethics, or they are unethical. So as an example, I only put 3 of them, but there are so many, more than 1,000 and above. But such like of research are found in our world, in our part, in our country, and so on. So these are unethical researches. Finally, it gives harm from the patient or harm to the environment, the community, and finally, until final as for death. So there are National Commission for Protection of Human Subject and Biomedical Behavioral Research was commissioned to develop guidelines to assure that human research was conducted ethically. There are reports after 1979. There are reports guidelines for all researchers. So this research we call it Belmont report. So this Belmont report basically addressed 3 fundamental ethical principles. One is respect. So treat others as autonomous agent, allow people choice. So without attendant or without people's choice, there is no research. So we should also beneficiency. So we do good for participant or for for subjects, not to harm. So justice also another principle. So respect, beneficence, and justice are after 1979 reported by Requirements. The national commission puts guideline. So also another researchers trials, as you know, 1945 to 1948, is done by Nazi scientists. So as you know, this time there are researches without ethics, without human voluntariness. So as you know, there are researches by trying like human beings as animals or like mouse and so on. So they can inject any drugs for human beings to know some findings without any human rights and human ethics. So, but after 1947, there are established guideline for ethical guideline for medical researchers. So there are 23 people and 20 doctors and 3 administrators is participating on this Nuremberg trial 1947s. So finally, unethical research output is one is fabricated data. So if you are unethical, our final data will be fabricated. There is plagiarized work. So the one work is copied or pasted to as our researches. There will be also biased reporting, inadequate informed consent, harmful experimental design like the Nazis peoples, and violation of confidentiality, conflict of interest, failure of protect vulnerable populations, lack of transparency, and publication bias by manipulation or publication or data. So why? Because of this, we know about ethics guideline or rules. So we should have to care of for all this data. So I think data falsification is conducting research with honesty, transparency, integrity, and accurate reporting fine limited data without fabrication, falsification, or plagiarisms. And also I mentioned this. So it when we say like plagiarism is includes verbatim copying, paraphrasing without citation or presentation of someone else's work as one's own. It's undermine academic integrity, misrepresenting originality, and erodes trust with the scientific community. Finally, consequences may include publication retraction, reputational damage, and loss of funding or credential. So these are some of the output from the research. Sorry for the interruption. As I mentioned before, there are vast, so it's better to important to read specific important information that you find that is in interacting with your objectives, your research, what we're going to do. So it's better to reading specifically for with your aim or with objectives. So thank you for your time, and sorry for the interruption and the connections.
Thank you very much for that very informative presentation. Once again, we apologize for the interruption. And everyone, I have posted the link to the post-CME quiz on the chat box. Please use the link and attempt the quiz. You will have around 10 minutes to attempt the quiz. And I wish you all a good luck.
Which of the following is not considered as potential conflict of interest in a research? Is one is financial relationship with commercial sponsor is known because of financial interest. B is personal relationship with other researchers. This also is because of personal relationship. Is also an interest for because of personal relationship. C is employment by an organization that stand to benefit from the research finding. Also, there is an interest from the benefits from the organization. So the answer will be D.
Question on what should researchers do to protect the confidentiality of research participants?
Okay. What should researcher do to protect the confidentiality of research participants? So share participant data freely with colleague for collaboration. It's impossible because of its privacy. So we don't do this. Sharing is impossible. C, disclose participant identities in research publication is impossible. As anonymize or de-identify participant data whenever it's possible. Is possible. I think B is the answer.
All right, awesome. Third question. Which ethical principle emphasizes the importance of minimizing harm to research participants and maximizing benefits?
So as we discussed before, always doing is good, not doing is or do not do always doing is benefit for participant, minimizing risk for participant, or maximizing benefits is C is the correct answer, because of beneficiency is the principal one is that important for always be maximizing the benefit and minimizing the risk. So C will be the correct answer.
All right, awesome. So the last question for the post-CME quiz is, which of the following statements is true regarding research involving human subjects?
Which of the following statement is true regarding research involving human subjects? Research participant must always be compensated financially for their participation is no. B, the vulnerable populations such as children, prisoners require additional protection in research. So we discussed before. Yes. C, research ethics broader are not necessary for ethical research conduct is incorrect, because not necessary, it says like not necessary. D, researcher have fully authority to make decision about participant welfare without oversight is impossible. So D is the correct answer.
All right, thank you so much for going over the questions with us. Now I think we can commence to the questions that were asked on the chat box as well as the Q&A section. So these were the questions that were asked. So the first one is it unethical to do research out of the researcher's profession?
Is it unethical to do research out of the research profession? I think yes, because I discussed before, because of profession is the one that specifically identify gaps, no science behind on what he do, and also expect the result. So professional is very mandatory to do some information, but sometimes maybe with collaboration it's possible. Collaboration is possible unless without profession is unethical. Example like I am an engineer, so I propose about the clinical research or clinical part. How could be, because there is no background about the clinical research background. He is an engineer. How could be perform, or how could conduct such research? So it's impossible. But with collaboration, it's possible. Example like linking or something like medical engineers can do with medical professionals with linking. But I think it's unethical, because without profession, doing research is unethical.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Second question is, we have two questions regarding ethics in research of involving vulnerable groups. So the first one is, for research involving participants from vulnerable groups, is there anything specified pertaining to how objectives and methods should be curated? Do we have any different way when we approach these groups?
Yeah, because of example like children's under five or under 15 years, most of like 15 years old, they can't decide their own part. So their family will decide about behalf of their research, so their parties. So there is consent like under 5 or under 50 and so on. So there are behalf of the vulnerable group, their parents involving on these parties. These are, for example, like children under 5, how could we decide for their involving on research. So they can't do such like procedure. So their families do on behalf of the children and also for vulnerable groups. There is a procedure.
Okay. Thank you so much for that. So the second question regarding research involving vulnerable groups is how can researchers ensure that informed consent is truly informed and voluntary when working with such groups who may have limited capacity to understand? As you've mentioned before, for instance, research involving children or individuals with cognitive impairment, how do we ensure that their consent is actually informed or if it's truly voluntary?
Yes. It can in different center like ethical review boards are available. So sometimes they can assure that the procedure is performed by the researcher, and also advisors. Sometimes like advisors, if you have advisors, as advisors also look this type of procedures. And also finally, when we prepare, when the finding or the researcher present his finding to the organization or the university or in some way, there are groups to identify such like information because of by interacting in retro information from the data collection to analyzing and writing. So most of the time, this groups like or final groups can check all information regarding the vulnerable groups, how can involving and the sign of their families and so on. I think there are groups like. Do you understand me? I think.
Yes, of course. I believe the question has been answered well. So we can comment to the other questions. So question number 4 is written consent mandatory for clinical research? And does a similar principle hold true for case reports? And are they always required?
Yeah, consent is mandatory for clinical researches. So these are before recruiting the research. So consent is the beginning of our work, the beginning of the research. So does similar principle hold for case reports? I don't think so, but it's also is important for case reports, but I don't go always required. But sometimes like case reports are comparing different cases. So sometimes I don't think so. Sometimes not important, but always is written consent is mandatory because of ethics. Also always put a guideline like ethics. Consent is mandatory for all researchers, but sometimes in a rare case cannot be follow consent. But for clinical research, it's mandatory.
All right. So the next question is, are there any regulations on research involving animals?
Yes, I think because there are regulations for there's as human there are what we call it animals for who stand for animals. I don't think so. The name there are association like human animal association like for specifically for dogs, for horse and so on. But mostly there are peoples for standing for behalf of animals. So they can concern about the animals. When we presenting your researches, you should have to know what you are doing on the animals because of, as you know, this type of participant they can defend or they can any responding about what you are doing on their part. So there are people who stand about on behalf of the animals, say concerned on the regulation. So yes,
Yeah.
as you know, humans
I think
is known.
yeah, I think
Yeah,
that some of the associations are like PETA, the People for Ethical Treatment of Animals.
yeah, yeah.
All right. Awesome. So I guess we can head to the next question, which is ethical approval required in secondary data, and how about consent? If so, whose consent is sought in this
It can approval
case?
required for secondary data. Is a secondary data. When we say secondary data, I think um, additionally because if similarity of the data is came from example like if you do if you have get approval from the first first data, the data is similar with the second data. I think it's impossible to continue. But if your interest, your objective is different from the first data, you should have to also take another approval from ethical because of there are different groups. So how about consent is yes, it's also because of every procedures, every informations know the participants because of if you tell the first information about regarding some specific things, but you add secondary data, secondary information, so the participant know this information. So you can take consent from the participant. I think this is very important. The objective is mandatory. Objective is mandatory. If you have same objective from the first data, it's possible to continue on the first data.
All right. Awesome. So the next question is, um, if I want to, this is from a participant, if I want to conduct a study on isolation of some bacteria from street children's body louse, will this study require ethical review? Uh, Note that the sample is just body louses, not involving any human tissue.
Because you conducting research from the participant or the children's, this also is vulnerable peoples because of they don't have any family or any who stand for them as type of you take from sample from the body, even though so you contact with children's, even though there is a minor risk or there is no risk on children's, but you should have to be take care of you. Yes, I understand because of, the risk is minor or no risk on children or baby, but this is mandatory to take uh, ethics from known or known organization. I think there are some organizations that concern about the children of state. So it must not that the sample just body loss, not involving any human tissue. Yeah, not only taking a loss from the body. Also, if you ask questions, if you find information from the children's, it needs also ethical approvals, not only for contacting, asking some question also. Yeah.
Okay, noted. Next question is,
Sorry.
when individuals' interest is conflict with So our next question is, when individuals' interests conflict with the potential benefits for society, how should researchers prioritize ethical considerations?
When individuals' interests conflict with the potential benefits from society, how should researchers prioritize ethical consideration? So there are different procedures. So before do that, you have to identify, I said before, there is a risk, the benefit for society, and the emergency, and also the financial benefit, and so on. So we should have to be prioritize or of the benefit of the society before going to such like because of the risk also identified. So we should have to be different points to see before deciding. So yes, it's prioritize is better for ethical questions because of example like some like example like COVID like of research is mandatory. So we give priorities for such like of emergency diseases. So they should have to also know the benefit, the emergency, and also the risk, and so on. There have procedures, so they look the guideline, the procedures that give benefit and risks. I think, yeah.
All right. So the next question is, when resources are limited, how should research priorities be determined? Should certain types of research or populations be prioritized over others?
Okay, when research resources are limited, how should research priorities be determined? Should certain type of research or population be prioritized over others? So before that, research is limited by resource. So if the research is very mandatory, yeah, but one limitation is a resource. So without resource, I think no research. I think that so without resource, how can we find our gap or our information? So it's impossible. But sometimes we give like we give or we create some modification like as limited sites like by choosing some data. Example, like if you do thousand participants, maybe take high resources. So sometimes maybe minimizing such data and so on. But I recommend that without resource, can't decide or can't think of research. So also there is limitation or risk because of if you haven't any resources or resource limited, our finding also be is not good for to society, or there is limitation for our findings. Sometimes like minimizing data or using resource limited site, like using modification or similarity of things, but by modifying some procedures or minimizing data. Even though it's not recommended.
All right. Thank you so much for that thorough answer. I think we have one more question. So, is there any room for leniency regarding ethical principles during public health emergencies and disasters?
I think there is room for it regarding ethical principle during public health emergency and disaster. In our setup, I don't think so. This question, but some like on my understanding, there are rooms in Ethiopian Public Health Institute, some rooms like, but no, not as stand for as principle, but I think there is regarding the ethical principle during public health emergency and disasters. I don't have some information, but it is, yes, in Ethiopian Public Health Institute, there are one department regarding for public health emergency and disaster. I don't think so. Minister of Health is concerning about this, but I know for Ethiopian Public Health Institute.
We have one more question, which is, what is the basic difference between beneficents and non-maleficent?
Sorry.
What is the basic difference between beneficents and non-maleficents? Or are they the same things?
Or the same things, but yeah, same things. Do good, not good, not do good. That always beneficial as good, do good. Always do for patients or patients. Always work for communities, good for communities. Always do for the researchers. Always do good for participants. But don't do bad or don't do unnecessary things. It's a principle. Always doing things for good things for everyone. So during research, always choose good things for researcher, the participants. Example, if you have resources, don't limit for resource because of your interest. So if you have resources, put your resource for good for your researches because of finally the outputs important for the participants, the communities or the community as a whole for things. If you limit some procedures, if you think for yourself for personal interests, you make bad things. So don't do non-manifest for participants, for researchers. I think same word, but not do good and not do bad and such on. There's a principle or ethics principle.
I think that's about it for our questions from the webinar chat as well as the Q&A chat. Thank you so much for taking the time to give us detailed explanation and answers on the questions that were raised. I'll hand it over to Ayman to close up the session. Thank you.
All right. Thank you,
Thank you so
Amira.
much.
Am I audible?
Yes.
All right. Okay. So this brings us to the end of our session. I would like to thank everyone who attended the session. We had a very, very encouraging number of attendees. Thank you everyone for attending, and also thank you Sebsib for making time out of your busy day, and it was a very, very informative session, and we hope we'll have you on other sessions as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, thank you for your attending.
Okay, so on our upcoming webinars with regards on research and QI. We have an upcoming webinar on qualitative research and quality improvement and measurement in quality improvement. We'll be sharing the specific dates on our social media channels, and please join our social media. I think I have sent on our webinar chat, and And also during this week, we'll have tomorrow we'll have an CME session on glomerular disease, and we'll have on PLAB series we'll have our part 2, and also on Sunday we'll have a session on Telegram on the topic of back. All right, thank you everyone for attending. Please continue joining our Telegram group and our various social media outlets. And I guess that's it. Good night.